Now on Denver 7, the snow just keeps coming across Colorado.
What you need to know before your Monday morning commute on this Weather Action Day.
I don't care why they're out here. Doesn't matter to me, doesn't matter to us. We just want to stop the suffering.
Plus, in these freezing temperatures, a lifeline for people with no place to go. Why this group says Denver is not doing enough for the homeless.
Russia suffers from a tremendous superiority complex because of its size and its history and its potential.
And we're going in depth on the war in Ukraine, taking a look at Russian President Vladimir Putin and the real reasons behind Russia's invasion.
We begin tonight with breaking news. Slipping and sliding all over the interstate. More than 50 cars have been involved in multiple pileup accidents on I25 in Denver. You can see on this live picture from our CDOT cameras, the crashes have the northbound lanes closed near Emerson Street, near University. We have a crew on the way right now to find out more about these accidents. But again, 50 cars involved in crashes on I25. We will have a live update in just a bit. But for now, CDOT says you need to avoid this area.
All right, let's get right to meteorologist Stacey Donaldson. Stacey, we know this type of weather can contribute to these kind of accidents, and road conditions may be slick for a little while.
It looks like as we go through the rest of tonight and even for your morning commute tomorrow morning, we're going to continue to see light snow here across the area. It's 20 degrees outside now. Feels like it's 6 with winds out of the north at 16 miles an hour, with that snow continuing here for our area and the eastern plains. We even have snow coming down up in the high country. But for the Front Range and here right around Denver, we're going to continue to see this snow for a few more hours, even as we head into the late night, and then it will start to taper off. We're already seeing some tapering here across northeastern Colorado. The snow was heavier earlier today, but it's still snowing out into southeastern Colorado as well, toward Lyman, Hugo, out toward Ray and Burlington. As for the high country, we still have a lot of snow that's still falling and will continue to into tomorrow. Winter weather advisories in effect for our northern, central, and into our southern mountains. They just literally lifted this winter storm warning and advisory for southwestern Colorado, but we're expecting a few more inches here, not only in the high country, but for the eastern plains. So our Sunday night planner, keeping temperatures in the 20s as we head through tonight, starting to clear as we get toward midnight. And then as we get into tomorrow morning, it could be a little icy, especially with these temperatures in the teens overnight. We'll talk more about our next chance for snow on the 7-day forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Stacey. And as these temperatures drop, people living on the streets are doing whatever they can to stay warm. And while one group is doing what they can to help, they tell us it's just not enough.
That's right. Denver 7's Patrick Perez joins us live tonight in Denver. Patrick, you were out there today with a group of homeless advocates handing out supplies.
Yeah, Brian, right now we are on the corner of 19th and Grant. There is a camp here behind me. There are about 10 or 12 people who live here, and thanks to some volunteers today, they got some much needed items like candles and blankets to stay warm in this really cold weather. But these homeless advocates say they need more than that. They need some proper shelter from the city. At 19th and Grant in Denver.
I got some milk for that, because it's kind of thick.
Surviving the frigid temperatures.
Okay, here's a couple of blankets.
Made a little bit easier.
I don't care why they're out here. Doesn't matter to me, doesn't matter to us. We just want to stop the suffering.
Cal Sangvaria and her team at Mutual Aid Monday stopped by Sunday morning to drop off some much needed items.
Terracotta pots really work well because they radiate out the heat. So that's really a good way to make heaters.
From candles to coats, even some sweets.
You want some donuts?
For Varia, this is the best they can do this time around.
I hope this is our last cold spell because people are getting worn down, you know.
During that stretch of below freezing temperatures last month, Denver residents donated more than $20,000 to help house 75 people in hotels and buy some winter gear.
Denver City residents are full of love and compassion.
A responsibility Varia says they shouldn't have to take on.
Where's the mayor? Where's the city council?
In a letter to the city Saturday, the group criticized its decision to open warming centers halfway through the freezing spell in February and only during the day.
At night, when the people really need to get in and get warm, they didn't even have them open.
It's a sentiment shared by District 9 Councilmember Candy Tabaka, who doubted those who needed the warming centers heard about them in time.
I could tell you story after story. I am at this point so frustrated.
With temperatures expected to drop below 20 overnight this week, Varia hopes city leaders are better prepared.
We should not be living in a society that lets people freeze to death or get frostbite where they have to cut off.
So we reached out to the city, to the mayor's office, to get comment on that letter that the group sent and to see what plans they have for these people this upcoming week because of these below freezing temperatures we're expecting to get. We have yet to hear back, but of course it is a Sunday, so hopefully when people get back into the office tomorrow, we will get a response and we will let you know what that response is. For now, we are live in Denver. I'm Patrick Perez, Denver 7.
It really is just unbelievable what folks out there are dealing with. Patrick, thank you. All right, a local food pantry says it has been vandalized several times recently, resulting in thousands of dollars of damage. The Denver inner city parish says it was first hit a month ago when someone drilled a hole in the gas tank of their truck to steal gas. The next week, somebody damaged mechanical equipment outside the pantry's building, causing the walk-in fridge to break and $5,000 worth of food to spoil. Also, someone stole the generator off of their food truck around the same time. The pantry says all of this will make it much harder to help those in need.
We've served this community for over 60 years, know a lot of people in the neighborhood. So not sure if it's just that, people are, in hard times and needing to resort to things like, having to go, get pieces that they could go scrap and, gas, prices being up. But, everybody, has just been surprised and, disappointed because of the how it's lowered the amount of volume of food that we're able to distribute to folks during this time.
Now, a generous donor has already stepped up and replaced the food truck's generator, so at least that will still be in service.
That's good to hear. Now, here's a tough number to hear. The national average price for regular gas is now more than $4 a gallon. Prices climbed to $4.01 as of today. In just the last 3 days, the price has gone up 28 cents per gallon. The last 2 weeks, 48 cents a gallon. This is, of course, due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Here in Colorado, AAA says the average price is $3.70 a gallon.
Now, over in Ukraine, Russia is advancing in the southern part of the country, hitting the city of Mariupol particularly hard.
In Kyiv, women and children were unable to flee through the country's only escape route. It was shut down this weekend after coming under Russian fire, violating a temporary ceasefire. Now, Russia and Ukraine are expected to meet again tomorrow for talks, but until those discussions result in something productive, the Ukrainian president is pleading with NATO for a no-fly zone over the country. The U.S. says that would be a step too far.
It's not some rule you pass that everybody has to oblige by. It's the willingness to shoot down the aircrafts of the Russian Federation, which is basically the beginning of World War III.
All right, now we want to go in depth on what's happening in Ukraine.
Last Sunday, we told you about Ukraine's president, Vladimir Zelensky. This week, we're taking a closer look at Russian President Vladimir Putin, specifically why he's invading Ukraine. To give you a little background, Putin has been the president of Russia for the better part of the last 20 years. He took over at the dawn of the new millennium and quickly solidified his spot at the top.
Here in the West, we see Putin as a villain, a reminder of the Cold War tensions between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. But in the beginning of his presidency, he was actually extremely popular with the Russian people. After the fall of communism, Russia was transitioning to capitalism and facing extreme poverty. Putin enacted reforms that helped the economy grow and improve the life of the average citizen.
But he also put controversial authoritarian policies into place. One of those was a constitutional overhaul that got rid of presidential term limits, allowing him to remain in power almost indefinitely.
And without the prospect of leaving office looming over him, Putin was free to do whatever he wanted. So how does all of this tie into the recent invasion of Ukraine? First, let's look at why Putin claims the invasion is even necessary.
It looks like it will be easier for us to come to an agreement than with this gang of drug addicts and neo-Nazis that has settled in Kyiv and taken hostage the entire Ukrainian people.
Putin claims that Ukraine has been taken over by neo-Nazis who pose a military threat to Russia and the pro-Russian breakaway states in the Donbass region. He says Russia needs to demilitarize the country and, quote, liberate the Ukrainian people. Putin also says Ukraine's efforts to join NATO show NATO is plotting to take over Russia.
But here's the thing, those claims are mostly false, and it's unclear whether Putin actually believes them. So let's take a look at what experts believe are the more likely reasons behind the invasion. Starting with Putin's claim of NATO's expansion east, there's a bit of truth behind that. Many of the former Soviet nations joined the Western-backed NATO instead of Russia's
Russia's military alliance. When talks of NATO admitting Ukraine surfaced, it likely struck a nerve with Putin. Russia and Ukrainian citizens have a very close relationship, seeing each other like siblings, similar to the U.S. and Canada. This has further contributed to Russia seeing itself as an outsider in European politics.
Russia suffers from a tremendous superiority complex because of its size and its history and its potential, and also tremendous inferiority complex precisely because it's never really accepted into being a European country.
Another theory is that the conflict is driven by oil and natural gas. Russia is one of the world's largest producers of those two, and much of their economy relies on them. Well, during Soviet times, the country built 3 of its major pipelines to Western Europe through Ukraine. At the time, there was no problem since they were part of the same country. But the recent pro-Western shift in Ukraine's government poses a serious concern about accessibility to those pipelines in the future.
Now, on top of that, in the last decade, Ukraine discovered a large amount of oil on its southern coast, and new advances in technology during this time allowed them to start harvesting the country's massive shale gas reserves.
So Russia sees Ukraine as a country threatening its energy dealings with Western nations. Combine that with the potential loss of its pipelines, and it spells out disaster for the Russian economy.
Now, this is turning out to be a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. Worldwide sanctions in response to the invasion have already caused the Russian economy to tank, potentially worse than what Russia would have lost if Putin left Ukraine alone.
We take these actions not because we oppose the Russian people. We do not. We regret that tens of millions of Russians will suffer because of the dangerous decisions made by a tiny circle of corrupt leaders and their cronies who've consistently put their interests above those of the Russian people, who are doing everything they can to hide their war of choice from the Russian public.
A $5 billion infrastructure bill is aiming to help Colorado's highways, bridges, and transportation. Coming up, where officials believe the biggest improvements can be made.
Plus, who in the world would jump into a swimming pool in this weather? Well, hundreds of people did, including me. There I am. The reasons behind our temporary insanity, next.